All right, so we're gonna go through the updates that we made. So again, I want you to remember that the actual VI SPDAT, right? So those first like 16 subscales, we cannot change. We cannot change that. We were able to change one, like we convinced OrCode to change one for us, which I'll go through, but we can't change those. Those are, that is owned by OrCode. We cannot change it. However, there are questions that we added to the assessment that we can change or remove or change the questioning. So those are more what we're going to be going through here. They are still very important. They still very much determine prioritization. So just kind of to lean you into this, right? Like, again, can't change the VI SPDAT, but can change the questions that we added. Okay, so these updates were actually decided in a CDT back in like April of 2021, but I'm sure all of you know how the Great Resignation impacted a lot of agencies. It definitely impacted ours as well, so it's just taken a little bit of time for us to get this into motion. But all of these were decided as a community back in April of 2021. The current questions and answers yield low data quality, which makes matching and referrals difficult. So again, these changes are really going to help with prioritization and matching and making sure we're matching people to the correct resources so that we aren't matching people and then having them get denied just because something wasn't asked on the VI SPDAT that could have been asked. And then some questions are being updated to be more trauma-informed. We want to ensure that all assessment items are used to make strong referrals and matches. And these are primarily changes, again, to preferences and eligibility, not the core of the VI SPDAT questions. So first of all, the opening script has been revised to be more reflective of best practices and in preparing a participant to complete the assessment. Our opening script is very, it's very to the point. It also helps set very realistic expectations and reminding the client, right, that this is not a guarantee of housing. The VI SPDAT is simply an option for housing and that you should be working on other housing options. And making sure that you're connecting with your case manager and making to make sure that you're staying on the community queue and updating your contact, because what we're finding a lot is we're matching people and then the case manager can't find them. So really helping remind the clients to keep their contact information updated or letting their case manager know where they are. Again, that scoring rubric has been removed as our community does not use the VI SPDAT score for prioritization. And then these changes are relevant to all three versions of the VI SPDAT. So the individual VI SPDAT, the family VI SPDAT, and the TAE. So it's important to note here, we have updated questions and then we also have new questions. So some questions have changed wording, but the values already entered will remain in the assessment. And some questions are completely new and will need to be updated. So we'll get into more of this, but kind of goes back to what I was explaining. Can't really change a lot of the questions, but there are some we can change and then some we've just removed. I don't know how many in this group work with families, but we will go through the family changes a little bit. So the family makeup questions have been moved to the beginning of the assessment to ensure that an assessor does not complete an individual VI or a TAE with households that have minor children in their custody. So remember, if there's any children in the household, you want to make sure that you're doing a family VI. The first question is, do you have any children under the age of 18 in your household? And do you have at least 50% custody of the children in your household? So if the client answers yes to either of these questions, then you will be completing a VI SPDAT instead of the single or the TAE.
Nikki, real quick on that.
Yeah.
What if someone has exactly 50% custody? Because I find that to be the most common.
Yeah, that is fine. Yep,
So you can still do the family VI.
that's the rule on several grant contracts, is that they have 50% or more custody.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, this also has to do with the family VI. So we changed this first question from do you have any open child welfare cases to do you have any open child protective services cases? And then we also changed the wording on this next question. Do you have a reunification plan to regain custody of your children already in place, or are you working on one? So we've updated this to, do you have a reunification plan to regain custody of your children already in place, or are you working with one of the child protective services or a guardian ad litem? Okay, this is the one question we were allowed to change on the VI SPDAT because the wording was so difficult to understand sometimes. This is the HIV/AIDS question. So it used to be, if there was a space available in a program that specifically assists people that live with HIV or AIDS, would that be of interest to you? So we're able to change this question, and so now it reads, people living with HIV/AIDS may be eligible for specific housing opportunities. Would this be something of interest to you or another household member? So remember, what we're getting at here is not like, are you willing to live in a community that is specific to people who have HIV or AIDS, but do you have HIV or AIDS, and are you willing to live in a community that is specific to those, or is a grantor to those who live with HIV or AIDS? So we do have very specific programs in our COC that serve this community. I know one of you just got a client matched to that housing situation. So we just wanted to reword this so that people understand it a little better, and so that case managers understand it a little bit better too, or anyone who's doing the assessment. Okay. So those were, I believe, all the questions on the family VI, and then this question would be for all of the VI SPDATs. So we changed this question to provide some more clarity. So the question was, do you have a permanent physical disability that limits your mobility? Examples, a wheelchair, amputation, unable to climb stairs. So we did change it and have added more details. So do you have a permanent physical disability that limits your mobility? And we provided some more examples. So a wheelchair, amputation, inability to climb stairs, walker, or need for grab bars. And then this part is the contact information part. So we just made it a little bit more robust here. And so where you're normally entering that question about like, please tell us where you're staying, this is what's going there instead. And you can also add this information, or should add this information, to the contact tab in HMIS as well. So again, we are noticing a lot when we're matching people that one big thing that's happening is that we're not able to find folks. And so they're potentially missing out, or are missing out, on housing opportunities simply because we don't have enough contact information. We don't have an alternative person. We don't have like a family member to contact. Any way to contact that person is sometimes missing. And so we really want to buckle down on this and get as much information as we can. Okay, these last set of questions all have to do with preferences and eligibility. I know that sometimes it can be really, really tempting to skip over this part of the VI. I'll admit, sometimes I did when I was a case manager, simply out of time's sake, because I did not think that it was important. And I'm telling you, that was wrong with me. And all of this is very important because it also helps us now. It's helping us with that prioritization part of matching. So it's really important for you to fill out all of these questions. So we're going to go through that a little bit more. Okay. So this question about your housing location, we updated to provide examples. So the things that you see in parentheses. So the question is, when you think about a housing location, what are other important things to have nearby? So community resources, we added examples like the DHS office, library, service provider. For medical care, examples include doctors, therapists, substance use treatment. For close to work or close to school, that can be for you or your children. Close to work, have accessible transit, so specify specific bus, light rail lines. So we'll have a drop down in some places for you to specify what those community resources are, what the medical care is, what type of transit you're looking for as well, to be as specific as possible. And then other would be family, friends, children, cultural, spiritual resources, or grocery stores. Okay, oops. So this one, we changed the wording a little bit. So do you have other housing needs that will support your success? So really focusing on that strengths-based here wording. So the first one is wheelchair accessible. And then we just added some examples to help people think about what that means. Because sometimes it just helps, you're in that, you've been talking and as a client, you're talking and talking about this really these traumatic things. And sometimes examples can really help explain some of this really odd wording. So a roll in shower, no steps, grab bars, etc. An elevator because of physical disability or fall risk. An extra bedroom for live-in care. An animal in your possession, please specify if it is a documented service animal or ESA or other pet. And then smoking and other. This also helps with like the matching process, because we do have landlords or organizations that work with these certain types of supports. We also have some that don't. So making sure that we're making the correct matches there is really important. Okay. This question gets into shared housing. So we changed the wording on this to provide some more context. Also keeping in mind that shared housing is permanent housing. That is an option that many people have. I'm sure many of us in our lifetime have had roommates. Still a very good option for some folks. So really diving into this question a little bit deeper. Would you consider or do you prefer shared housing? Living with others that you may or may not know. Shared housing generally offers lower cost living expenses and social support. This could be temporary or long-term based on your goals and desires. And then there are the options there. The options are the same. Okay, and this one, we changed the wording on. So this one used to talk about what you would not prefer. So now we're asking what you would prefer, because it was a little bit confusing, is what we were hearing from service providers. So the new question is, please mark the types of housing below that you would prefer to live in. Explain types of housing available to ensure understanding and do not assume. So again, we put in parentheses explanations of these housing options to help a little bit in case you or the household you are doing the assessment with do not understand some of these housing options. So project-based is the first one. Some or all the units on that property are subsidized. Support is generally available on site. Scattered site or tenant-based Housing will be located from general housing stock, often better for folks with challenging histories. The third one, sober living. So somewhere where sobriety requirements are in place. A work program, somewhere where employment supports are built in and often required. An SRO, or single room occupancy, like a hotel dorm room, no individual kitchen, or other. The next one we changed, so we used to or this is just, it's a word change, but I would argue that it's a little bit more than that. So we used to ask, do you get Medicaid, food stamps, all that kind of stuff. So now what we're asking is, where are you getting those services? Please mark what counties you receive services in. Services are things like Medicaid, SNAP, medical care, mental health supports, case management, substance use services, child protective services, TANF, CCAP, etc. And then you would mark the county or counties where people are receiving those services. I believe this is a brand new question. Yes, brand new question. This is really looking at, so remember in our prioritization, we are now looking at 3 or more disabling conditions, and a TBI or traumatic brain injury is a part of that consideration. But sometimes people don't understand that they've had a TBI. So this question is really to help people dive into that and understand or get a better idea of if they have had some sort of head injury. So in your lifetime, have you ever had an injury to your head or neck from an accident, recreational activity, fighting, abuse, or explosion? Okay. This one we changed a little bit. Again, we use this question. This is the big question we use for that systems involvement prioritization. Very important question to answer on the VI. So it used to say, have you had any significant interactions with the criminal justice system? We realized that wording, that significant word, people were getting hung up on. Like, what does that mean? And so we changed this question to say, have you had any interactions with the criminal justice system resulting in criminal charges? Okay, this one we added some things. So a word change and some new questions. So I want to explain this really clearly because, again, this really affects someone's prioritization here. Very important to understand this and to answer it correctly. So the first question is, so we changed it from, have you been in jail or prison in the last 2 years to, have you ever been in jail or prison? So if that person answers yes, a drop down will come down, and it will ask, if you have been in jail or prison multiple times, please provide the most recent date. So we know that many people who have been through systems involvement, it's generally not one time. It's generally several times. So what we're looking for is their most recent time that they've been in jail or prison. This one, we also added some branching here. So we still are asking, are you currently on parole or probation? But then there's some branching that we've added. So if yes, this branching logic will pop down and it will say, are you restricted to a certain county? Some of those specifically on parole are normally restricted to a county. So answering that question, if you answer yes to that question, another branching logic will come down and it will say which county. Okay, and these ones we just completely removed, either because we weren't using the data, the first one we weren't using the data, and the second one here we realized that it's pretty traumatic, so we're bringing that up. So we took away prior to being incarcerated, where did you sleep? Where did you most frequently sleep? Also, this one was a little bit confusing because, like I said, which time? Like So you've had a client who's been in jail 3 times. Which time are we referring to here? That where did you sleep most frequently before being incarcerated? So it was confusing and like not very trauma informed, and we weren't using the information anyway, so we're taking that off. And then the other one that we're taking off is what's the total amount of time you spend in ADSEG. We don't need to know that information, and it's not a trauma-informed question. So removing that. Okay, so those are all the changes. All of this will be fully live starting August 1st. So all the new questions, all the removed questions will all be in there starting August 1st. You'll see some live updates in HMIS already in the single adult, but there will be some more additions starting that will go live August 1st. And then in the family and TAY, you won't see any changes right now. All changes will go live August 1st. August 1st. That's all you need to know. Okay, and then some general FAQs. Do I need to complete a new VI SPDAT? No. Please don't do that. Please do not do a new VI SPDAT. Remember, it's pretty traumatic to go through that, so we don't want to redo it. What you should do, though, is go into the old assessment and update it. So I'm going to show us that part in the training site, so you can see how to update. Will the household I'm working with lose out on a housing opportunity because these questions have not been updated? No. One home coordinators who complete matches look at a variety of factors when determining a housing match, like service history, notes, files, a whole bunch of stuff we look at. A household must be prioritized in order to be matched to housing. Is there a time frame that I should have these questions updated by? Not really. There's no hard deadline, but it is helpful for this to be updated is, the next time you see that client, or, the next time that the client is able to answer those questions. I know that sometimes, right, we're out in the field and meet with a client, but maybe they're not having a great day that day. Totally fine to not do it immediately, but still want to try to get those done. Again, no time frame. And the last thing, so next steps. Next step is when you meet someone who has completed a VI SPDAT, take a moment, they're in the space to do that, to update their most recent assessment for the questions indicated in this slideshow. So here I'm gonna go through the training site so we can see exactly how to do that. So while I'm getting the HMIS training site up, any questions? I know there's like a lot of information.
Nikki, while you're pulling up the next, so for single adults, the prioritization is determined by 3 or more disabling conditions, systems involvement, and what was the last part?
Currently fleeing DV.
Fleeing DV. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Oops, I need to log back in. Okay. Can you all see the training site?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go into Kyla's profile. Kyla is actually our director for HMIS. Okay, so you're working with Kyla. You see her. She is willing to do some updates in the VI. So what you're going to do is go into the One Home program over here. Go into assessments. And then this is the most recent VI. So we're going to go into that VI here on the edit button to the very left. You'll see this might happen too. So there might be some things at the very top that have not been filled out. We added that a few months ago. So you can put that information here if you want. So assessment location, assessment type, and then the assessment level will always be housing needs assessment. So you can make the changes directly in this. There's no need to do a new one. We don't want you to do a new VI. So you want to just go ahead and make the changes, even if you were not the person who did the VI. So, right, so I didn't do this VI. Stacia did. So you can see that here. Stacia did this VI, I did not. I can still go in and make the changes, which is what I'm going to do now. So you'll see here, right, this is the regular VI, so nothing was changed here, like the org code VI, except for, you can see here the HIV question. I highlighted it here, that was changed, the wording was changed. If you keep going further down, past all of this, this is where the questions start, really, that and they'll pop up that you need that you need to complete them as well. I already had popped into this profile, so you're not seeing that that they need to be completed. But you know, that first one, when you think about housing location, what are some other important things? So if we say community resources and transit, and then the transit, we want to be close to the G line in Arvada. Do you have other housing needs? Perhaps this person needs an elevator. Perhaps they need a service animal, type of animal. Sorry, we'll say actually an ESA. And then this person would consider shared housing. You want to answer that question. Where would they prefer to live? This client thinks that they need case management on site, for example, so we would choose project-based. And then what county are they receiving services? So for you all, probably just Adams. Do you receive services in Aurora? No. In your lifetime, this is the TBI question. So we're going to say yes for this client. Have you had any interactions with the criminal justice system? We'll go ahead and say yes, so that we can see what else gets populated. So you see what got populated when you said yes was, have you ever been in jail or prison? I'm going to say yes again to get that next population. And then have you been in jail or prison multiple times? If so, please provide the most recent date. So we'll just say, we'll make up a date here. Are you currently on parole or probation? We'll say yes. Are you restricted to a certain county? Yes. And then it populates that next question, to which county? We'll say Adams. And then this question is still the same. So approximately how many total years have you been incarcerated in jail or prison? And then all the rest of this is the same. And then what you're going to do, it might pop up something I missed. Let's see. Okay, great. So you're going to save it. And then to indicate that you're the one who did this, because now you're working with the client, right? Stacia isn't working with Kyla anymore. Like, I am now the case manager that is working with Kyla. And so what I'm going to do after that is go into the contacts section, add a contact, and add myself. And then that's it. You've done everything that you need to do in order to update the VI. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I don't know how. Okay. I know that was a lot. Any questions that you all have?
I may have missed this earlier, but for the paper assessments, when will that be available?
That'll also be available August 1st.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep, so that'll just go on our One Home website. I believe the only thing we're changing, we've like changed everything. There's just a little tweaking we still have to do on the family VI. But yeah, all of that should be uploaded to the website by August 1st. And again, the paper versions, right, we're going to just take off the scoring altogether. But the scoring still will be in HMIS, it'll still populate a score, but again, mostly just for the VA's use. What else? I hope that's a sign that I explained this pretty well. We did go through this in community design team with the entire community. So you should have received all those slides if you're a One Home user. But just in case, again, I'm going to send out an email to all of you with some information. So the slides, it'll be the CDT slides. So you'll also see other things from CDT, like we went through the alternate process as well. So if you want to learn about alternate process, that's on there as well. I'll send our updates around prioritization so you easily can access that. I'll send the link to the VI SPDAT training. I suggest everyone watch that, even if you've been doing VI SPDATs for years. We did go ahead and you know, on every single question, we explained what our COC is looking for every single question. So, you know, it's a way to make things more equitable instead of just assuming what a question means. So I'm going to highly encourage all of you to watch that. It is a little longer, it's 2 hours long, but still very helpful, really gets into that race equity stuff. And again, goes through every single question. I feel like I did relatively well on time. Anything else? Anything else around this or any other like One Home questions that you have? It's weird to not see your faces. Okay, so I'll send out all of that. If you have any questions, just contact me directly. anything around One Home at all, around the COC, around MDHI, reach out to me. I know a lot of you already do, which is great. I feel like I've emailed like 3 or 4 of you already today, so that's great. But yeah, just know I'm here. That's what I'm here for. I'll get that information out to you, and happy filling in these new questions on the VI. And if it gets to be too much or you have feedback, like let us know. Like we're always looking for that. As you're out there redoing this, if you're like, hey, I ran into this issue, like tell me about it. I want to hear. So anyway, I know it's like 5 o'clock, so I will let you all go. Thanks, Lindsay, for letting me swoop in on this meeting. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Nikki, for coming and explaining all the changes and updates and the reasoning behind it. As a reminder, our next meeting in 2 weeks is the tour of the Stout Street Foundation in Commerce City. So that will be in person at that location. So if you did not receive that invite or it's not on your calendar, let me know and I'll forward it to you. Thanks, everyone.